Well, hello, I'm Kedar, and today I'm going to be refuting an argument made by Augustine. His claim was that allowing motorcycles to lane split has more positive results than negative. To remind everyone the definition of lane splitting, I'll use the definition that he used, which is that lane splitting means driving a motorcycle that has two wheels in contact with the ground between rows of stopped or moving vehicles in the same lane, including on both divided and undivided streets, roads, or highways. So Augustine's secondary claims were that 1, lane splitting is safer for every motorist, 2, there are multiple benefits for everyone besides safety, and 3, California is a great example of how beneficial lane splitting is. So to his first claim, lane splitting is safe for every motorist. As evidence for this, he uses quotes from an article written by Lawes Blaine, a motorcyclist. By splitting between lanes, riders are able to put a shell of slow or stop traffic around their bikes and protect against the inattention of other road users. So although the article is full of supporting data on the benefits of lane splitting, this specific quote has no data to support it, and it seems to be more of the author's opinion, one naturally made by a motorcyclist who wants to get to their destinations faster via lane splitting. So the bias undermines the claim made by the author, thus undermining the validity of the article being a source for this specific quote. The reasoning used by the advocate in this claim has flaws as well. In this point especially, he uses hypotheticals to make his point. However, he needs more evidence to back his hypotheticals. For example, he states that by allowing motorcycles to lane split, there is less of a chance of them getting hit when slowing down or coming to a stop. However, he provides no data to support this through statistics. His second claim was that there are multiple benefits to everyone besides safety. The evidence he used includes another quote from the same article, and that quote is that riders don't wait for stopped cars, and in return, they don't make cars wait for them. The only time a motorcycle holds up a car is when it sits in traffic and acts like another car. And the other evidence that he used was that the on-average company brand MPGs for their respective motorcycles. So again, this quote has little data to support the quote that the advocate cites. Specifically, it seems, again, it's more of a conclusion that the author made himself through his own bias. And more importantly, the statistics given to support that motorcycles are more fuel efficient, 45 mpg for Harley and 35 for Honda and Yamaha, have no sources that I could find, even though the author, or the advocate said that he found them at the company's website. They weren't in the bibliography either, and I tried for like about a half an hour on the company websites, and I couldn't specifically find them. So the source is low use of data for the quotes, and the sketchy miles per gallon statistics undermine the advocate's second claim. The advocate's reasoning in this claim that motorcyclists get to their destination faster, have less time on the road, and so are out of driver's way, lacks sufficient backing as well. Again, hypotheticals undermine his reasoning, and merely stating that motorcycles that lane split have benefits without much evidence, such as the average travel times of lane splitters versus non-lane splitters, undermine his reasoning. It can be said that by lane splitting motorcyclists getting out of driver's, or it can be said that by him stating that lane splitting motorcyclists get out of driver's way, and that they, through lane splitting, is that motorcyclists who lane split are literally getting in the way of drivers as they weave through traffic. So the advocate's final claim was that California is a great example of how beneficial lane splitting is. He cites a study conducted by UC Berkeley researchers regarding lane splitting and other accident statistics in the state of California. Of the 5,969 motorcyclists, 997 were lane splitting at the time of their collisions, 17%. Lane splitting motorcyclists are remarkably less likely to suffer head injury, torso injury, or fatal injury than non-lane splitting motorcyclists. His second evidence for the claim was a quote from the Assembly bill to legalize lane splitting in California. Both these evidence are rock solid in their credibility. However, his use of the first source as evidence is flawed in his reasoning. Firstly, he draws conclusions that the statistics from the Berkeley studies show that lane splitting motorcyclists are safer and therefore we should lane split. However, the researchers themselves state in their conclusion, this study is not without limitations. The current data set cannot be used to compare the collision risks for lane splitting or non-lane splitting riders. The data that we do have enables us only to examine the collision, personal, and injury characteristics of the riders who were involved in traffic collisions. So in short, we can't draw conclusions from the statistics that are given. A counterclaim to his actual final secondary point is that California is the only state in the US that allows lane splitting. But there's probably a good reason why 49 other states don't allow it. So in conclusion, the advocate's secondary claims have severe flaws within them that fails to fully support his argument. These include the fact that the use of anecdotal and hypothetical evidence fail to formulate any sort of credible support due to the lack of data for the first and secondary claims, and the third claim has data that is somewhat interpreted incorrectly. Thank you.
All right, structurally everything is clear. On the first point, you kind of repeat their quote, you explain what it is that you think that they've inferred from the particular quote and explain why you don't think they can reach that inference. It's really just an opinion. And you suggest that the source is biased because they are an advocate for motorcycle rights and a motorcycle rider themselves. It's a hypothetical and maybe it's a personal experience that they have. I could see maybe the suggestion of a little bit of bias here, but I think the better argument is that it's not very representative, and without any other data or other experiences, it's maybe hard to generalize from them as opposed to simply saying that they're biased. I do think that you do point out very reasonably that they are very dependent on a lot of hypothetical challenges, and that makes it difficult to be able to reach any sound conclusions. On the second point, when you talk about benefits, you discuss the issue of, let me see, what is it? The first point, again, there's no data. We're, again, relying on a lot of hypotheticals. And then you get into the argument about MPG and how much gas would be saved, that sort of thing, which I think is okay. You spent half an hour looking for the MPG figures. That's a lot of time looking for that. It seems strange that it wouldn't pop up. And if there wasn't a source citation in the advocate's point, that's a reasonable press to make on that argument. I think there might be a bigger argument, and that is how significant an impact is this based on the number of motorcycle riders and based on, the fact that people get MPGs from their motorcycles that are better than cars doesn't necessarily show that lane splitting has much to do with that. To me, that's the that's the reasoning issue that goes on here. He's assuming causality, but the causality of saving is based on their riding motorcycles, not on their lane splitting. The hypothetical that you talk about on benefits, we're back to the same issue, that it's really dependent on hypotheticals. And I think you do a good job on all 3 points, pointing out that you don't really have sound data. You have hypothetical examples and personal conclusions arrived at by observation, except on the third point where there was some statistical data, and then you try to take down that data by suggesting that the people who process that data suggest that you can't use it for the very purpose that the advocate's using it for, which I thought was a good way to come back at that particular point. And then the last point, I think, is a reasonable question to make. Why is it that we're inclined to believe that California is right and 49 other states are wrong? That's a reasonable press, and it does suggest that there might be some grounds that we're not able to see at this point. All right, thank you.